if I bleed tonight, if I am sad tonight, I don't have a job to find. And if I work tonight, if I'm so tired tonight, I'll fall asleep when I'm home.
What's going on, ladies and gents? Jake DeMarco, a.k.a. Countdown Ended, coming to you once again with the SummerSlam 2019 preview and prediction show. That's right. I'm here with my good friend, the one, the only, Patrick. He's going to go ahead and join me for preview and predictions today. Patrick was going ahead and actually training to become a wrestler at one point. He was going to Test of Strength Wrestling School, studying under the one and only Slick Wagner Brown. So we're going to have his insights. He was the one actually that came to the last NXT TakeOver pay-per-view that we went to in Bridgeport, so it was a hell of a time. Patrick, thank you for joining us. We're going to go ahead and we're going to break down this entire show. We're going to bring up some of the possible matches that haven't been fully announced yet. And we're also going to go ahead and give you both of our opinions on what's to come maybe a little bit afterwards. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. We're going to start off today and, really go ahead and just before we get into the kickoff show and all that, I figured we'd start and talk about the things that maybe we don't know of yet, what's to come and what might be announced over the weekend. So right off the bat, we have Shinsuke Nakamura, the Intercontinental Champion. He does not have an official match for SummerSlam yet, which is, quite upsetting. But tentatively, he was supposed to face Ali. Mustafa Ali and him have had, a few matches back and forth. Ali pinned him on the week before the go-home show for SmackDown. So if this match was to happen, who do you think would win and why?
I think Shinsuke would win the match because he really needs an uplift in his career as of late. It's been really downhill really fast for about 2 years. So
yeah, you're not wrong there. Shinsuke for a while now has gone ahead and had a hard time, gathering wins and being effective in the ring. We know he has the talent. We've seen what he can do, especially in New Japan and even somewhat in NXT. And it'd be nice to see him get a, real decisive win here and keep his streak going. They could feud back and forth with each other, especially since Ali got the most recent win. They put on really good matches. It was entertaining. I hope they give them enough time, but I could picture this being on the kickoff show if it happens. Next up, we have the possibility of Drew McIntyre. Him and Cedric Alexander had their match interrupted this week by Bray Wyatt. Bray went ahead as The Fiend attacked Kurt Angle on Monday Night Raw. So their match was, essentially a draw. But these two have had a lot of bad blood as of late. And, Cedric Alexander is kind of an up-and-coming babyface on the roster. A lot of potential here. I'm kind of split myself. I'd really like to see McIntyre go ahead and just be the dominant force that he deserves to be. Cedric, they're in a precarious position here because if they're trying to build him up as well, a real clean loss might just derail him entirely. So if I had to pick, I'd obviously want Drew to win here. I'd like to see him propelled to the main event scene full time. I'd like to see him go for the U.S. title, or even the IC title, and then right to the WWE or Universal Championship. What do you think, Patrick?
I 100% agree. Drew McIntyre is he's a special talent for sure. All it takes is one Claymore, and that's really it. It's the name of the game, though. Count the 1, 2, 3, and you win. That's it.
You're not wrong about that. He's genuinely devastating. Those kicks, he too talented, and he's just been such a great heel. He really has been, and just so underutilized. And we could say that about many other people on the main roster, but Drew has something special, I feel, and he resonates well with the crowd. People enjoy booing him. They like to go ahead and actually jeer him. So hopefully we get a bit more from him going on in the future. Next up, we a little bit to talk about here, but Roman Reigns has been attacked, for 2 weeks in a row now. He's been assaulted by some rogue forklift operator and then almost run into with a attempted vehicular manslaughter. Neither of which looked great on TV, but entertaining nonetheless. We're kind of in the middle of a precarious whodunit situation. So it was revealed on SmackDown last night, the go-home show towards SummerSlam, that Eric Rowan was responsible, according to Buddy Murphy. Now, Daniel Bryan released a bit of a piece saying that, that they are both innocent and Eric Rowan had nothing to do with it. It's a media spin. But what do you think about this whole scenario? Do you think they'll have a match at SummerSlam? You know, what are your kind of predictions of what's going on here, and what are your thoughts?
I feel as though that Daniel Bryan, he's the one that's doing it. I mean, it's kind of obvious at this point, but hopefully they have a match, and you know, I've been really looking forward to seeing something good come out of Daniel, just like on top of this heel role that he's had. So who knows? But I really hope to find out who done it real quick.
And if they have a match at SummerSlam, who do you think will be the victor? Do you think Roman Reigns will lose, you know, in the middle of the ring? Will Eric Rowan get involved? What are your thoughts there?
With Big Daddy Vince in control, Roman's the winner.
Yeah, which I think would you know, destroy the feud right off the bat, but it's hard to ever vote against Roman. The last time we saw him lose, especially in you know, clean, was against Shane McMahon, and obviously Shane is the ultimate you know, in everything. He's been booked so strongly. He's one of the strongest booked, I hate to say wrestlers, but, you know, superstars on the roster. I forget who said it, but someone on YouTube said it before, that he's like a creator wrestler with all the stats boosted to you know, maximum. You know, he's got that perfect 100 rating. And, you know, for being, I think, 51 years old, Shane's, you know, no slouch, but he's certainly not much compared to the other guys. But, yeah, I have a hard time picturing Roman losing at all, and that would just ruin this entirely. So hopefully they find a way to, if they do have a match with each other, go ahead, get Eric Rowan involved, and keep the feud going and really build it up nicely. I'd like to see their motivations and justifications, because I don't know why. I can't think of a reason of why they would want to attack Roman. Do you have any?
Because people are sick of seeing him on the top.
Yeah, I mean, that could be it. I mean, that certainly could be what they're trying to get across. So it leaves a lot to, you know, desire to be answered, and I'm curious what we get out of that going forward. If they do have a match, though, I'm hoping it ends, you know, you won't hear me say this often, via disqualification or some type of, you know, some dusty finish in a sense. Next up, I just wanted to make a note really quick. We have no match set for either divisions, you know, either show's tag team champions, which is really bizarre. I figured we'd get something from either side, but nothing has been announced so far as of the, you know, the time of this recording, which is Wednesday. Now, we've gone ahead and we originally saw Heavy Machinery on SmackDown in a small program with the New Day going for the tag titles, but since then it's kind of been non-existent. And as far as the Raw side goes, I know, you know, the OC, the club, they have the tag team titles over there on Raw right now, and they're just announced to be in the corner of AJ Styles for his match. The tag division has been, you know, ignored to the fullest extent possible, and it's just, you know, I don't know if they're just blissfully ignorant and don't know what to do, or they just don't care at this point in time. But do you have any thoughts about the tag division, or do you have any, you know, potential matches you think they might throw at us for SummerSlam?
I don't know anything about the matches per se, but if they want to up their tag style, they should probably look at the independent scene and take some notes.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that's one of the things that AEW, which you're greatly looking forward to, I think might have, you know, them conquered in spades. Their tag division is going to be a main focal point, I imagine. Already, you know, the Young Bucks are making sure that that's known ahead of time. So, but it was just something that I wanted to note. You know, you have both brands champions not being included on, you know, the second biggest show of the year. You know, it's just a bit perplexing. So. As far as the kickoff show goes, the only match that I'm assuming that's definitely going to be on there is, of course, from 205 Live. We have the Cruiserweight champion, Drew Gulak, you know, in his PowerPoint presentations, going ahead and taking on Oney Lorcan, you know, once Biff Busick, that Joe used to call it Top Rope Promotions. I really like Oney Lorcan, and Gulak has done a great job as champion. I'm really interested to see this match. Who do you think will win here, and why?
So I haven't really ever seen Oney Lorcan before, but as far as Drew Gulak goes, I'm not a huge fan of his character, but he has a lot of talent. So, I mean, ultimately, really, whatever decision they make to win the championship will be all right with me. You know?
Yeah, you're kind of, you know, all set either way, whichever way it lies. I'm almost there myself, but essentially right now I'm kind of hoping in a sense that Gulak retains here and they give Oney Lorcan another shot down the line. I'd like to see him, hold on to the belt a little bit longer since he just became the champion not that long ago. Be nice, when they really build up someone so it's more impactful and meaningful when they lose the title. Speaking of newer champions, we have our first, essentially, main roster match. That's AJ Styles taking on Ricochet. This one I'm really looking forward to. I think this and one other could be match of the night. I'm really, excited with these two facing each other. I am slightly worried with the reports that Ricochet has been injured. His elbow's been bothering him. He's dealing with some type of infection. AJ and him work wonders together. That top rope Styles clash was a thing of beauty. They're both at the top of their game. I feel like at this point in time, AJ has a new sense of adventure. It feels like he really wants to prove something, and he said he wants to help elevate younger talent. When he re-signed his contract, one of the only ways he'd agree to stay is to actually have the club be kept as well, because Vince didn't have interest in keeping them. So, that shows that the club is not going away anytime soon, and this is going to be a full-time thing. I'm curious to see what we, get from them going forward. But as far as this match goes, I think since the club, have the tag titles, I think AJ Styles will retain here. This will keep the feud going forward. What do you think, Patrick?
I believe that AJ Styles is going to take it because he's phenomenal. And like you said, with Ricochet's elbow, he really needs some time off to get that staph infection or whatever it is looked at. You know what I mean? So hopefully we'll see AJ win, and that'll be the end of the day. That'll be match of the night.
I think it could be match of the night, honestly. I think this really could be good. And we'll go ahead and see a lot more from them. Next up, we have one of the matches I'm personally looking forward to the most. I don't think it'll be match of the night, but it has the most intrigue for me anyhow. I'm very excited for this one. We have Finn Balor, one of my favorites on the Raw roster, taking on the newly returning Bray Wyatt. That's right, the Fiend himself is finally debuting on the main roster. We're going to go ahead and see, finally, what does his entrance look like? Does he just appear in the ring with the laughter track, happening? Or is he actually going to come out towards something? Does he wrestle in the mask? I mean, there's a what is his ring attire going to be like? So many different questions I have. Is he going to strictly use the mandible claw as his finisher? And as far as the match goes here, I mean, we know Finn's going to have some time off. He agreed to wait with his sabbatical until after this match. I think a great booking idea here would be to have the Fiend win against Demon Finn Balor. That would give him a huge explosion right out of the gate, real meaningful victory. So it's not just Finn that he beats, but he beats the undefeated Demon. And then he kidnaps, Bray kidnaps Finn and brings him to the Firefly Funhouse. So that writes Finn off of TV for a while, and they can do some kind of fun storytelling with that. What are your thoughts, Patrick?
So this is probably absolutely the best match of the night with the intrigue like you had spoken of. Bray Wyatt he really shows that he is the number one talent right now. I want to see, like you said, Finn get written off in such a way that it doesn't hurt him so bad, but also elevates the Fiend to new heights because, with people like Mick Foley helping him out and even Abyss working for WWE, that's another masked man. Maybe he can come out with a black hole slam. You never really know what can happen. So hopefully we see something great, dark, mysterious, in a whole new light of WWE.
Yeah, I'm really hoping they go dark and twisted with it. Now, one of the main betting side bets here is I'm wondering, do you think we're going to get the Demon?
I would hope so, because originally stated they would have the Demon on every main four for the year, and yet here we are barely getting the Demon, and when we do, it's a so-so moment. So I would like to see this be really, really heavily into the Demon versus Fiend factor, especially with the AEW pay-per-view this month. They need to do something big.
Agreed. They need to really, come out of the gates on fire here. I don't think we're going to get him. I as much as I originally thought that this was a lock, with the way the advertising's been, I think they would have tried to not surprise people here, but make it more announced beforehand. They don't often surprise us with the Demon, but I figure they do everything they can to have eyes tuned to the product, and a Demon Finn usually does that. So, unfortunately, with the way reports have seemed to be, I don't think we're going to get it, but I feel like that's a huge misstep and certainly a real illogical, booking decision. Beating that undefeated Demon, would certainly be a huge step in the right direction for, a new Bray Wyatt. Next up, we have a dream match of sorts. We have Trish Stratus taking on Charlotte Flair. This match is, again, I think going to be very well received. I think, obviously they're in Trish's hometown, and, she'll get a great ovation here. Everyone wants to see the legend returning. Go ahead and, shut the mouth of Charlotte Flair. Problem for me is that, not that I don't want to see this match, and not that I don't think it's going to be a good match, because I do think it's going to be very good. But, unfortunately, I feel like this could have been the scenario better serviced for some other female talent here. Charlotte has so many firsts, so many accolades, so many victories under her belt, and, she's so esteemed and viewed in high regard, especially by creative in the back, that this could have been another female's opportunity to be brought to the level of Charlotte Flair. A victory over as big a legend as Trish is could really, really propel someone into the stratosphere, pun intended. And unfortunately, that's not what we're getting here. So does Charlotte need the victory? No. Is she going to get it? I'm assuming so. I really predict that, obviously Charlotte will win here. It would have been nice to see Trish somehow pull out all the stops and get a victory, but I don't foresee that happening. What do you think, Patrick?
I think it's going to be an unclean win for Charlotte. I think it's the only way.
Oh, really? You think they're not going to do it straight up, not clean?
Yeah, they have to do something. Make Charlotte look that much more like a heel. Why not?
Yeah, maybe we can get a rematch out of this, and get something finite from both of them. Not a bad way to call that. And sticking with the women's division here, we have the SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley taking on Ember Moon. Who do you think is going to win here, and why?
I think Ember's going to take it because she's had a long road up. She's, seen very little TV time comparatively to everybody else. I would love to see another African-American champion, and like the same year it would be super sick. And yeah, so I'm taking Ember Moon, and that's why.
I agree with your reasoning, but I don't see them taking the belt off of Bayley just yet. I mean, you made a great point before with her, essentially because she could just be a paper champion and a placeholder. And it felt that way when she won it at Money in the Bank. It was, kind of out of left field, especially with how, she wasn't being used at all since when she lost the titles, the women's tag team titles at WrestleMania with Sasha. I can see Bayley holding onto the belt here and this feud continuing, and then eventually Ember takes it from her, but Ember felt like such a long shot when she was announced as the number one contender. She wasn't someone that was regularly seen on TV, as you mentioned, and her being picked just felt like, throwing darts at a board at that point. And that's their problem. They can only focus on X amount of people at a specific time, and they seem to forget that other people do exist. So we don't have a lot of, people ready to be contenders and be used as credible threats for when championship matches. Not that Ember couldn't do it, but she just wasn't booked and billed as a champion yet. I think she still has a bit of work. I think it'll be a good match. Not great, but good, serviceable. I think Bayley will retain. So you're going to go ahead and stick with Ember Moon. Next up is a match that I think everyone will agree with here. It's Goldberg versus Dolph Ziggler. I think this will be faster than when Goldberg beat Brock Lesnar, surprisingly, at Survivor Series. I think this is going to be a very quick squash. Right out the gate, spear, jackhammer, another jackhammer maybe for good measure, and done. They want to make Goldberg look like a menacing threat yet again after the bad outing he had with The Undertaker in Saudi Arabia. And I'm sure you agree there.
Yeah, this match is going to go faster than Goldberg giving himself a concussion.
If he doesn't concuss himself on the way out, granted, yeah. So a quick squash here, and they apparently want to keep Goldberg around for quite some time and have him, wrestle once more in the future. Kind of gives them a chance to bring him back out when they need him. After that, we have, one of the hardest ones for me to really decide on. I've been back and forth with this until they added the stipulation last night. we have Kevin Owens taking on Shane McMahon. If either man leaves, they're leaving. They're packing up and leaving town. So Owens would have to quit, and Shane would be done if he loses. So it's an interesting scenario for both men to kind of put not so much their career, but their livelihood on the line. They're trying to make it as much of a Stone Cold versus McMahon as possible. I mean, even giving Owens the stunner. It's the Austin McMahon feud of the new century, essentially. I haven't been entirely crazy about this because I've been just so fed up with Shane McMahon being the focal point on both Raw and SmackDown thanks to the wild card rule. But Kevin Owens has done a really, really good job selling, everything on his end, between the beatdowns, the promos, just how visceral and lively he's been. I'm hoping that, obviously I'd like to see Shane be gone, but the cynic in me says that Kevin Owens will lose here. We'll see Elias and maybe some others go ahead and be the difference factor. The numbers game will be too much for him to outcome and persevere through. And unfortunately, Owens will have to quit. And then in 2 weeks' time, he'll be reinstated by Vince or, some other factor will allow him to come back. And then we'll see these two finish their feud at the next month's pay-per-view, or they might even stretch it all the way to Hell in a Cell, where they have the final Hell in a Cell, rematch between these two. What do you think and why?
I literally have never agreed more with you in my entire life on every aspect of that. I would like to at least see a couple stunners to McMahon in the meantime, but I think ultimately the difference makers will be Elias and Drew.
Yeah, he has, so much help, and that's the sad point here, is that it will be an unfair scenario, but hopefully it's entertaining. Hopefully they really beat the hell out of each other. It's a good match, and maybe they'll surprise us and they'll give us something good, or they might give us that feel-good moment. But, insider knowledge, I was told that, especially reading other reports as well in the dirt sheets, again, always take it with a grain of salt, as I say, but, they want to surprise people with outcomes here. So this certainly seems like one that would be very surprising to not have Owens win. Next up, we have the Raw Women's Championship. That's right. We have the man herself, Becky Lynch, taking on Natalya. I've never been a Natalya fan, unfortunately. I give her credit for what she's done and, what she's been through, but I just never been, entertained by her. Her wrestling ability is not lacking, but she didn't have a certain amount of flair for me to ever get behind. And for a long time, she was viewed as a joke. I mean, she was farting on SmackDown shows and doing nothing. I mean, literally farting. So, I'm not thrilled that she's been put in this scenario. Again, like I said, only focusing on certain females and males at the same time. We haven't seen Natalya do anything credible or decent in ages. Now, all of a sudden, just because they're in Toronto, she gets thrown into that main event scene. I think Becky retains here. I'm almost guaranteeing it. But I've also heard that they might try and do something along the lines of another Montreal Screwjob angle because it is a submission match. That would disturb and perturb me in the worst way possible. I don't think anybody wants to see them do that yet again. I mean, they've redone the Screwjob so many times now. They've revisited that, that moment time and time again, especially being back in Canada. It doesn't need to happen, but they're in Canada. There's a heart involved, and it's a submission match. I feel like that's, all signs point to them doing some type of, fuckery with this match. But Screwjob or not, I think Becky's winning here. If they do some type of Screwjob, it keeps the feud going forward. If not, Becky wins. She makes Natalya submit, and it's a one and done. What are your thoughts?
I think at this point in Natalya's career that she doesn't really need to prove anything. In the last 10 years, really, what has she done besides botch moves? And you can hear her on TV saying, "Go, good job" to people and stuff. And that's not how to be a wrestler. Get aggressive, you know what I mean? I think that Becky's taking it, and it's going to be a one and done, and that's it.
That's certainly how I hope it turns out to be. Just a quick one, done, and see you later. Find someone else to get a chance here. Next up, the match that you were really excited for is Randy Orton taking on Kofi Kingston. I'll let you break this one down.
Very much so. I would like to see, after what has it been, 11 years of a feud since, the car thing back in the day on Monday Night Raw. I would like to see an actual conclusion that involves a lot more than, oh, he doesn't deserve to be at the top because, talking smack to me or whatever. I hope to see Big E and Xavier in some way turn on him and, RKO get the title one more time.
I think Randy Orton will win here, and I'm thinking that might be one of the surprising victories we get as well. I know we had discussed several options for the New Day to turn on Kofi Kingston. We even said that had they had a SmackDown Tag Team title match earlier in the night, which yet to be advertised, might not even happen, but Kofi's not in their corner. He's preparing for his match, and the numbers game, someone akin to the club, it wouldn't be them, but they lose because there's too many people involved, and Kofi wasn't there to help them, and they're tired of it. They got Kofi to Mania by winning that match for him, and it's just now we go ahead and the tables have turned. Kofi's not there to support them, but he's been supported by both Xavier Woods and Big E for time and time again. So now they go ahead, they turn on Kofi, and Randy Orton wins. So now Randy Orton can face someone else for the title, and Kofi can feud with the New Day. I don't think that that's what we're going to get, but I do think we're going to get Randy Orton winning here. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully it's entertaining regardless. And then last on the list, of course, we have the main event of the night. Wouldn't have it any other way. We have Brock Lesnar with his Universal Championship, recently won as he cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase at Stomping Grounds. We have him taking on the Beast Slayer, Seth Rollins. After Seth's horrible impression of Brock Lesnar, we've gotten, nothing but a big perplexing, confounded mess, and it's been so convoluted, unnecessarily so. Seth coming out this week, I like his explanation, granted, with him saying that he's just so motivated by victory and revenge that he doesn't care about the pain his body's had to endure. But that was such a foolish move for him to come out there in such a weakened state just to get his ass kicked. So I'm so undecided on this. I keep going back and forth. I could see them keeping the belt on Lesnar, obviously, try and, use him as a spectacle, raise the ratings, things of that nature. But then again, I could see them really trying to put more back into Seth and reclaim his title as the face of the, men's roster in WWE at this point. We don't really have a top guy right now, and I could see WWE trying to make him, fully relevant again and have the universe stand behind him. Push comes to shove, I'm going to say that Seth wins here. It's going to be a very high-octane match like we got out of WrestleMania. A lot of weapons involved and short-handed tactics, low blows, things like that. And then the match will start. We'll see an attack beforehand, and it'll lead to Seth winning. That's my prediction here. What do you think, Patrick?
My brain tells me that since Seth has gotten his ass kicked a few weeks in a row, he was going to be the winner. But at the same time, I feel like Fox wants Brock as champion. So I don't know how they're going to do an old switcheroo there, but in some way, shape, or form, I feel like by October, he'll still be champion or will be again.
Yeah, I mean, they could have him switch brands. They could have him do something with Orton. They could, there's so many ways around it. But even if he's on Raw as champion, they still have him as a focal point. Yeah, I mean, logically, you'd say Brock, but I'm thinking Seth wins here. I can't stand Brock personally, and I would prefer to see him not retain. Do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Can't wait for TakeOver. That's going to win the weekend.
Yeah, I'm excited for TakeOver as well. That 2 out of 3 stages of Hell match, certainly something that I'm most excited about. I really hope that SummerSlam goes off without a hitch and that it's a great show and people enjoy it. I've been kind of a little less strict on WWE, trying to be less critical lately. And they've done a decent job up until last night's SmackDown of trying to be a little bit more story-focused and, orienting more on characters and creative. It's not been good. It's not been great. But I at least give them credit for certain things they're trying. So I'm not giving them a pass, but I certainly, see that maybe a few things are showing that, times are changing, hopefully. especially with Bischoff and Heyman kind of starting to seat into their roles. Maybe we'll get things to be more entertaining. But Patrick, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it greatly, and I will see you all this weekend for the live SummerSlam review on the Joe Cronin Show. Thank you for joining me, and as always, stay sexy. You guys have a great day.